Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today we have Behnaz, and she is a counselor and a therapist. So thank you very much for being here. It's my pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Yeah. So before beginning up, it would be great if you could, speak about yourself and about your projects you did and what you do and all those things. It would be great.
So I am working as a counselor and a therapist. I've started my personal practice since the lockdown because I lost my job as a school counselor. So here I am, and yeah, that's about me. But I have worked before in the social setup. So I have done an internship in rehabs and at family court as a family counselor, so relationship counseling. So that's where I've interned, and now I'm here working and building my own practice.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. So yeah, before beginning up, you as a counselor and a therapist, as you said, have been a relationship counselor and all those type of counselors, counseling people and helping them with their life and with their mental health issues and all those things. Like what how would you term mental health, as per your experience, as per your learning? How would you term mental health, as in what you think is mental health?
Yeah, I think it's very easy when I put it in consideration with physical health, right? With physical well being is when you're able to work well, you're fit. And similarly, mental health and mental well being is when you can cope with different situations, when you learn to adapt, when you don't break down, and it's a spectrum, right? Mental well being and mental illness, it's a spectrum. So it's linear. It's not okay, if I am not mentally well, I am mentally ill. It's a spectrum. So on the scale, like, have I got a fracture, or have I broken my bone, or have I just got a wound and I'll be fine, right? So similarly, mental well-being is, you need to understand where on the spectrum are you, and if there is difficulty in coping with certain situations, in adjusting, in learning new things, and there's difficulty in adapting, then usually people seek help and want to learn better to how to kind of be able to adapt to different situations and learn more about themselves. So I think that's more of how I look at mental health. And yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. And would you like to give the people or the audience listening it or watching it about what you're going to discuss and what you're going to speak about? Could you please do that?
So, sure. So I think I chose the topic of talking about how your internal dialogue, your inner dialogue, your mindset can actually shape your life, right? And how we don't even know how our belief systems are actually guiding us to become who we are, right? So we are what we think, we are what we believe. And if we can be aware of that and shift that, we can change our reality. So I
Hmm.
think that's what we're going to talk and touch upon today. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And uh, yeah, and how like how can speaking, if I speak with myself, if you speak with yourself, how can it help us heal ourselves from any kind of any kind of mental health issue or any kind of thing? How can it help us? How can internal dialogue or internal speaking can help us?
Lakshit, we already have an internal self-talk, an internal dialogue. It's not like we don't, right? We may not know this, but we have at least 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
But how many of these thoughts are we aware of? And without even knowing, because our internal dialogue is influenced by a subconscious and unconscious mind, right? Our mind, only 10% of our mind is conscious.
Mm.
And if our internal dialogue, which is actually shaping my reality, is influenced by my subconscious mind, then that's where we feel out of control, because I'm not even aware of this. And our subconscious mind comes from our conditionings, our beliefs, what we think, our morals, our values. And most of these things are conditioned from a very early age, where we didn't know what is right or wrong, what is good for me or not. I use right or wrong very subjectively, not as black and white. But what is good for me or what is not good for me, what is helpful for me or what is not helpful, what is healthy, what is not healthy for me, without understanding these things, because of how things are around us and how were conditioned, we have accepted certain beliefs which may not serve us. But our self talk and our beliefs and our understanding of the world is still guided and influenced by that subconscious mind. And that's where we feel stuck. So it is not that how can self talk help you or not. It's an inevitable part of your life. You constantly indulge in a self dialogue. You may not be so aware of it. um, when it starts becoming unhealthy is when the self talk is not regulated,
Hmm.
right? It's negative. It's coming out of, like I said, we are mostly conditioned by a subconscious, and we don't even understand, why am I believing in this even though it's not helping me? Why can't I drop it, right? And we feel very helpless. So in such times, we need to sit and understand what is actually driving our self talk, how do I change this, and how can I make a conscious choice, hence by changing my self talk, changing my behavior. So
Hmm. Okay. And how can like how can somebody indulge themselves in a right way, like not using it right or wrong, just not getting to that point of that, like how can somebody, I would quote it from right or wrong, I'll quote it as more productive or more helpful self talk. How can somebody indulge in that kind of productive self talk?
yeah, firstly you need to be aware of what is my self talk,
Hmm.
right? So if I tell you, Lakshya, through the day, how many thoughts have you had?
I didn't count them.
Yeah, but how many, like how many were you really aware of? How
Uh,
many thoughts were you aware of in the day?
Around 20, I would say.
Exactly. Okay. Maybe around 20, right? But how many thoughts have you had through the day? Plenty.
Mm.
Okay. So, first thing is to understand, what is my inner dialogue?
Yeah.
What is this constant chatter and this dialogue that I am consumed by, right? What am I constantly telling myself? So, first, maybe we need to also look at these things, that we always feel like a situation causes me to feel a certain way, right? A happens, a situation happens, and I'm feeling a certain way.
Mm.
I failed in my exam, I feel terrible. But what we miss in this whole thing is the situation does not cause me to feel a certain way. The belief of the situation causes me to feel a certain way, right? Let's look at an example. Two students in the same classroom giving the same exam, getting different marks. One gets 80%, for example, and is miserable, feels very bad about getting 80%. The other guy just passes, okay? And he's excited, he's thrilled, he's very happy, right? The situation is the same. Both of them have got their marks. What do you think has caused them to behave so differently?
Hmm. So maybe the first one would be very intelligent and very good in his studies, and the second one would be a person who gets an average marks and has passed with maybe a good number of marks, which makes him more happier.
Yeah. So the second guy is saying, मैं पास हो जाऊं तो
Okay,
ठीक है,
ठीक
बस पास हो जाऊं तो चलेगा, बाकी मुझे कुछ नहीं
है,
करना.
चाहिए.
While the 80% guy believes somewhere, if I don't come first, if I'm not, you know, 90 in the league of 90 or in A plus, I'm not good. This is not enough for me. So ultimately, it comes down to, what is my belief about this situation?
Hmm.
And if we start understanding life like this, that what I feel is only secondary to my belief system. So, not the situation, but what I believe is causing me to feel a certain way. If we understand this, then we will stop externalizing what we are feeling. Arey, main to aisi hu because of this. I am feeling very helpless because I can't control this situation. But what you can control and what you can change is what you think about that situation. And the moment you change that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can change your life because you start feeling differently, you start behaving differently, and we are our habits, right? We are our behavior. And in fact, right now, we are all going through the same situation. The whole world is going through, a pandemic. But I'm sure that people who are, some of them could be thriving, and some of them have just been like, I've lost my job, nothing's going right. I hate wearing masks. I'm not going to step outside. I don't like the internet. I'm not going to work online. And they're just, they just feel so helpless. And some people have lost their jobs. They've started doing something online. They've started learning a passion. They've started making a passion a job. Why? Same situation. The world is going through the same situation. And why so many different reactions,
Mm.
right? So, this is very important because if we understand this, we understand that the power to change ourselves is with us,
Yeah.
right? But with great power comes great responsibility.
Mm.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is this responsibility? Okay, if I understand that my self talk, my belief is shaping the way I am being, now how do I change this? That's what you asked, right? How do I make it healthy? Because something knows that I'm not healthy, I'm not happy. The one indicator to know something's working for me or not is, am I happy in this situation? Right? If I'm not happy, it's a clear signal that this is not working for me. This is not healthy for me. So when you understand that, first thing is to be aware.
Okay.
What is my self-talk? And you have to stop thinking, no, the situation made me feel like this, but actually say, but what was I believing about the situation? What was I telling myself about the situation?
Mm.
Right? So having awareness of what is it that you keep telling yourself, the stories you keep repeating to yourself. And we have certain favorite stories,
Yeah.
right? We have certain favorite stories that we want to keep falling back on. Oh, I'm very lazy, I can never exercise. You know, I'm always going to be procrastinating. I'll never be able to decide what I want to do. I'm constantly changing jobs. So, certain favorite stories we keep falling back on. So, firstly, be aware of what is it that I'm telling myself that I really want to change, and this is not helping me, right? When you understand, okay, this is my self talk, which will take time, right? Because all this while we have lived we are indifferent to what we are saying or believing. We're just living. So, with more awareness, second step would be to unlearn these things,
Mm. True. Mm.
right? The only way to learn something is when you unlearn something about it. So, if my glass is full of a drink I can't drink anymore, I have to pour that out and then fill it with something else that is healthy for me, right? So, how can you unlearn these beliefs? How can you unlearn that I need not always have to get first class? that it is okay to be different, that it is okay to try different things and not just have one job.
One job. Yeah.
Right. So, how do you go back into unlearning these patterns, these beliefs that you've held so strongly and that they're not working for you? Right. So, that would be what you do next. Third thing, and sometimes this is very important, is you journal your thoughts.
Mm.
And why journal? Because if I ask you, how did you feel in this situation? You say, I felt miserable. And I say, okay, what were you thinking? You'd be like, nothing. I just feel miserable, right? But what are you thinking? You're not thinking anything because we are not aware. So, one activity that will help is journaling it down. Every time you are angry, every time you're annoyed, every time you're sad, every time you're anxious, ask yourself, what am I thinking? What do I believe? What does this anger mean to me? What does this irritation mean to me? And then slowly you will have something, right? You will get some dialogue, some words. Just write them down because writing them down will be more concrete. यहाँ पे सब ऐसे लगता है खिचड़ी है. Only feeling is tangible. What I'm thinking is not. So journaling, okay, to give your thoughts more of a concrete understanding. And then when you are aware, when you have unlearned your thoughts, when you are journaling down your beliefs, you have to start changing your beliefs. Now that you journal down and you see your beliefs for what they are,
Mm-hmm.
you have to start changing them into more rational beliefs.
Okay.
Okay. And I don't want to use the word positive because it's not about everything is okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it is about what is rational, factual, logical, right? What
Yeah.
is healthy for me? So if I said, okay, I've lost my job as a counselor, now I can't do anything. I have to wait for the pandemic to get over, and only then can I start working because I am not comfortable working online. If this is my thought, I couldn't have worked, right? I couldn't have done anything because no place would hire a counselor right now. No school is opening till I don't know when, right? But how do I sit with this thought and say, okay, it's not like I can't do anything if I've lost my job. I can look for things online. What are the options ready for me? And now I start to logically evaluate my thoughts. Why do I think that if I've lost my job, I can't do anything else? If I don't like using the internet and I haven't used it before, how can I learn to use it for my benefit?
Mm.
What will help me to use this to my benefit and start my own practice? And these are actual things I've sat down with because I'm not a internet social media person. And funnily today, my full practice is online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you start looking at your thoughts and giving it logic and feeding it factual things, it starts taking shape and it becomes healthy for you, right? And with all this, the last thing is mindfulness, obviously, because we are talking so much about being aware, so much about knowing what we are thinking. But ये सब subconscious mind से आ रहा है. 90% of your mind is subconscious. You're not aware of it. How can I be more aware of this subconscious mind? By practicing mindfulness
Mm.
in some form, in some way. And mindfulness doesn't mean you sit for 1 hour with your eyes shut, but how am I being mindful? Every time when I'm feeling something, do I know what is making me feel that way? Am I aware of myself in a situation? Am I aware of my beliefs? Am I aware of my feelings? Am I aware of my needs, my wants? Right? So more mindfulness, and as a mindfulness as a practice, as a part of your life, not as something you do when you are in that situation, but just as a habit, more mindful living. So I think when you start doing all these things, you can really work through your self dialogue. And there are certain things which will be very tough. And I guess that's where therapy also comes in, because some things are so unconscious and they're so deep rooted that for me to see it on my own and be aware of it and change it may not happen. And hence probably in things like that, therapy comes in and you can work with a professional to understand what is it that you're holding onto and how can you really change it to change your behavior and patterns.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I think you just covered whole part of the conversation we had with the solutions, with the problems and everything. So thank you very much for getting that deep and explaining each and every single part of it. So I think yeah. So you covered it almost. I just want to ask you one question at the last before ending this up. So what would be your message to anybody watching this, hearing this? What would you like to leave them with? A note or a message you would like to leave them with?
I guess just know yourself, right? I guess if you know that there's something bothering you, and if you know that you would like to lead a more happier life, a more productive life, whatever it is that you want for yourself
Mhm.
and you can't attain it, try to see what is stopping you. And I think the best way to, grow is to learn more about yourself and in a very honest and authentic way, you know. So just ask yourself, what is it that is bothering me? What is it that's stopping me? What would make me happier? And see if you can do that. See if you can be more aware and change the conditionings that are causing you to not take that step. And if you feel stuck, like I said, we all do at some time, we have very deep rooted issues, go to a professional and seek help for something like that, to maybe lead a life which is happier, which is something that you choose for yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's it.
So yeah, thank you very much for joining in, sharing about self-talk. I think this should be the first episode I did on self-talk. Thank you very much for getting us that deep, speaking about that deeply. It was fun having you. It was fun having a conversation with you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.